Con Stanley Parable para mi cumpleaños, sí. Eh, Mucha gente conoce este juego, pero yo realmente, o sea, había oído hablar de él, pero no sabía qué era. No me quise spoilear y aquí estamos. Primer directo, porque hace unos días hice uno con mis amigos, pero era para probar.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Ok.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push,
Ok,
how
somos unos
long to
enfermos
push
al
them,
trabajo.
and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And
Ok.
although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Ok. Stanley es feliz
And then one
trabajando.
day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would
Ok.
never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Ok, me está diciendo qué tengo que hacer porque acabo de entender de que me levantaba y me iba de la oficina. Ok, se supone que nunca había ocurrido esto de que no habían órdenes, así que... ok, vamos a ver un momento. Ok, a ver. Ah, ok, ok. Cuando me muevo con was, entonces está todo bien. No puedo agarrar nada. Ok, bueno, vamos a explorar. No hay nadie. Mm, ok, aquí no hay absolutamente
All of his
nadie.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
La puerta se cerró detrás de mí y no me gustó. Ok, este.
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Me están forzando a ir donde tengo que ir, si no el juego no avanza. ¿Qué es esto? Por cierto, esto fue una recomendación de mi amigo Andrei, así que saludos desde tu cuevita de la casa donde no sales por el COVID. Muchas gracias por esta sugerencia tan vacilona. Ok, no hay nada. ¿Dónde está esa mierda? Hmm. Supongo que es aquí, ¿no? No, no es aquí.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
A su derecha, dijo. No, yo era a la izquierda. ¿Oli? Hmm. Oh,
Yet there was not a single person here either.
que creo que
Feeling
sí
a
fui a la
wave of
izquierda y era a la
disbelief,
izquierda. No
Stanley
leí.
decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Hmm. How to solve a coworker. Yo me voy. No me interesa. ¿Pero quién verga me está cerrando las puertas? Oh,
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
no quiero. Quiero explorar aquí,
There
quiero
was
ver.
nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow. Just an
Solo un
empty
armario
broom
de
closet.
limpieza vacío.
No reason to still be here.
Hmm. No me gustas, señor narrador.
Coming to a
Narrador.
staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Y vamos para abajo. Oh, rojo. Un carro.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy.
Pues sí.
And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began
Me
to
está
make other
cansando.
strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind
Sí.
him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating?
Este
No,
señor
Stanley
me
said to
está...
himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley
Me está
felt
cansando el
to have
narrador un
finally
poquito, me
found
está
an answer,
abrumando, no
an
estoy entendiendo
explanation.
nada y ya
His
me dio miedito.
co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it
¿Qué
too
verga?
appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange.
Me estoy
I'm
estresando.
dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all
Se me está
very
repitiendo
odd
la
and
escena.
wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams,
Ay,
the
no,
truth
ay,
was
no,
that,
ay,
of
no.
course, this was not a dream.
Esto
How
no me
could it
gusta.
be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't
No, no,
have to
no,
take
no, 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 no,
responsibility
no,
for
no.
himself? Stanley is
No.
as awake right now as he's ever been in his
Ok,
life.
ya estoy viendo por
Now,
qué me lo
hearing the voice
recomendaron.
speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all,
Necesito
he knew
salir
for
de esto.
certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control.
Por
That
favor,
this was a
necesito salir
dream.
de este bucle.
So he closed his eyes
Bucle,
gently,
bucle.
and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back.
Feliz
the
Navidad.
fresh
Feliz
air of
Navidad.
the world
Feliz
outside
cumpleaños
this one.
para mí.
Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job.
Ah, estoy casado.
All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Eso no sonó bien. Mierda, sigo aquí.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real.
¿Por qué todo está rojo? No, no. ¿Por qué todo está rojo?
Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
No.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in
¿Esos
that
somos
moment,
nosotros?
she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real
Me estresé
and what
demasiado.
isn't.
Pero una persona que te narra las cosas es demasiado
And
estresante.
in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very
Tenemos
important
a
people
alguien también
whose
aquí.
impressions of
Muy
her would affect
bien.
her career, and by extension, the rest of her
Perfecto.
life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Y volvemos a empezar. Empezamos de nuevo. Bueno, vamos a ver. Esta ocasión trataré de encontrar
All of his
a
co-workers
dónde
were
tengo
gone.
que ir.
What could it mean? Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors. He
Entra a
entered
la
the door
puerta
on
de su
his left.
izquierda. Ok. ¿Y si voy a la derecha?
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Ok. Solo para admirarla. Qué cosa más horrorosa. Estas oficinas dan mucho miedo. Hmm.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautiful, but eager to get back to business. Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
A veces no puedo pasar las puertas. Qué triste. Ok, esta es la sala de reuniones.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief,
Tips para no ser
Stanley
despedido.
decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Increíble. A ver. Oh. Baño ejecutivo. ¿Qué tiene de diferente? Que ejecutan la mierda con gracia. No está la secretaria.
Stepping into his manager's
Jueputa,
office,
me
Stanley
asusté.
was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him?
Eso es muy grande para
What
una
he could not
oficina.
have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the
Vamos
boss
a
had
hacer lo que nos
assigned it
dicen.
an extra secret PIN number, 2845. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Ok. Esto me da miedo. Yo no quería seguir las instrucciones. Ah. Ay, no, hizo oscuro. No, tengo miedo. Uy, verga. Eso me recuerda cuando jugué, ¿cómo se llama? Outlast, solo como los primeros minutos y no
Descending
me
deeper
gusta.
into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This
Quiero ir a mi
question would
casa.
not go unanswered for long.
No quiero que nada feo me pase aquí, por favor. Se supone que esto, Andrei, mi
Stanley
amigo,
walked straight ahead through the large door
me
that
había
read
dicho que era
Mind
fácil.
Control Facility.
Ok, control de la mente. La mente. Puta. No me gusta que se cierren las puertas solas. ¿Y esto qué?
The lights rose on an
Oh.
enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself.
Suenan mis zapatos y no me los veo.
Now the monitors
Oh,
jumped to
verga.
life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where
Ok.
freedom meant
Entonces,
nothing.
prácticamente que en el trabajo te espían y todo. ¿Qué es esto? Suena raro.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to
Se supone que
believe
estos
it
son los
couldn't
números
be
de los
true. Had
empleados.
Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Ok.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was
Me
unthinkable.
irrita este
Wasn't it?
caballero
Was it even
demasiado.
possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Sí.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content.
O sea, qué verga. No puedo hacer nada. System
And when
power.
at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty. Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After
No,
they
no,
kept you
no, no.
enslaved all these years, you went and you tried to take control of the
Yo solo
machine
leí
for
yo.
yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear
Todo esto va a
detonators will
explotar.
explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your car.
Goodbye. No, 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 no,
Take a
no,
look
no.
at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then...
Oh, Dios mío, Dios mío, Dios mío. Voy a morir, voy a morir. Voy a gritar y luego voy a
Will you
morir.
cling desperately to your frail life?
Me voy a
Or
matar.
will you let it go peacefully?
Uy.
Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me. All a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the
3,
moment we fade
2,
in until the
1.
moment I say
Bye.
happily ever up.
Diablos. Eso estuvo intenso. Y volvemos al inicio. O sea, yo, si supiera que puedo hacer ahí o algo, porque sinceramente está interesante.
In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra...
Ok,
Stanley
lo que
was
vamos
in
a
such a
hacer
rush to get through the story
es
as
que
quickly
en
as
lugar
possible, he didn't
de,
even have a
de
single
cagarla,
minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
por hacer las cosas rápido, él me dijo que no lo dejaba hablar. Ok. Y me puso música para mi ansiedad.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Ok. Obtenemos, porque ya hemos obtenido
And when
como
at
varios,
last he found the...
como que varios finales. Y no sé qué pasa.
things, and a rising chill of uncertainty.
Y no se ha callado este
Was
hijo
it
de su
over?
puta madre.
Yes, he had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved.
¿Qué vergas con esto?
Stanley felt the cool breeze
Wow.
upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Pero yo no estoy feliz, no entendí. Tú me manipulabas, narrador. Logro desbloqueado. Completar el juego.